So Sean Payton thinks some of these new and vogue coaches will provide quite the competition in 2019. The Saints frontman ruffling a few feathers. We'll fill you in. Also, we'll hear from 49ers GM John Lynch on why OBJ and Antonio Brown were never a great fit by the Bay. Wide receiver talent still needed, however. Plus, Andy Reid's going to tell us why Patrick Mahomes is capable of what he showed us a season ago, and then some. Total Access, let's go. We're getting you set for the weekend. I'm Cole Wright, and this is TA. I'll be joined by Stacey Dales, Dwight Freeney, and the Steelers' Joe Hayden in just a bit. But until then, we're going to get you to DK Metcalf's Pro Day in Oxford. Now, Metcalf, as we know, a projected first-rounder. The Cowboys, however, they won't have to worry about that. They don't pick until 50th in the second round. They have other issues to address currently, like getting their all-world defensive end DeMarcus Lawrence signed, sealed, and delivered after hitting him with the franchise tag for the second straight year. Now, Tank in Dallas still in the negotiation process, and here now, Cowboys VP Stephen Jones addressing that, as well as the Robert Quinn acquisition.
We're motivated to get this deal done with DeMarcus Lawrence. I mean, he's obviously a guy who's been here homegrown, who plays the game the way we like to see the game played. Obviously, Rod, he's learned under Rod, and he plays the way Rod likes to see a defensive lineman play. And he'll come off that left side, and Robert Quinn coming off the right with Randy and mixing a few of them down inside is, I think, nothing but a positive for us.
All right, so let's bring in Ian Rappaport to help further this discussion. Now, Rap Sheet, Stephen Jones says Dallas is motivated to get Lawrence Inc. to a deal, but just how motivated are they?
Well, they do not have a deal yet. Now, they have been exchanging proposals for the last several weeks. My understanding, though, right now is that the Cowboys and DeMarcus Lawrence's agent, David Cantor, have reached an impasse in negotiations. Cowboys want to pay him about $20 million per year. Obviously, Lawrence would like a little more. But there is another issue at play that we probably have not spoken enough about. He needs labrum surgery. He has a torn labrum from last year, played with it last year. And from Lawrence's perspective, he's patient. He's not going to sign a deal unless it is the right deal. Not going to sign anything unless it makes sense for him. The Cowboys, however, want Lawrence to have labrum surgery. They wanted him to do it this offseason. They want him to be fully 100% for next season. He is not going to do that, from my understanding, until he has a deal that pays him properly and commensurate with his market. So the clock is ticking. The reason why is this has a 4-month recovery. So if he does not have surgery by, say, April or maybe May at the latest, he may not be ready for the 2019 season. The clock, in fact, is ticking for a fully healthy DeMarcus Lawrence to be out there for 2019.
197 tackles, 34 sacks in his young career. Rap Sheet, thank you very much. Now, a season ago, the numbers suggested that Lawrence was tops at his position on the Dallas Cowboys. He's the first Dallas player with 10 or more sacks in back-to-back seasons since DeMarcus Ware, who rattled off more than a few. So tops in nearly every category when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. Dwight, when you take a look at Tank Lawrence, what kind of player are the Cowboys getting with this guy?
Oh, I mean, the thing is, he's a motor guy. He's a guy that you don't have – that's one thing you just can't teach. He's a guy who goes out and plays his all on every single down. All right, so that's one thing. The second thing, he's the anchor of that defense. That's what that defense knows, is him coming off the edge, making plays for that defense. And as you watch him, the other thing he does great is using his hands and his leverage to make plays. All right, he doesn't get held often because of that, and he always finds a way to make plays, slip off blocks because great leverage, as you can see here. He likes to bend. He likes to get through those cracks and seams and makes plays. And that's the one thing I keep saying. He makes plays. That is a hard thing to find in the National Football League, is a guy who can make plays. And here again, you watch this guy coming around the edge. He loves to use his arms to his advantage. He has that high motor, so he doesn't get held often. And once again, he makes plays for that defense.
What do you think when he actually does have that procedure? Will that change the way he approaches his game at all?
I don't think it's going to change how he approaches it. Obviously, when you have surgery, you have to go through some type of rehab.
Okay.
But in the end, he is who he is, and he's a dog, and he's that anchor to that defense, and they need him.
Okay, DeMarcus Lawrence, Joe, what do you think? How much does he help guys like you in the secondary for the Dallas Cowboys?
Oh, man, we go hand in hand. You know what I'm saying? You can't have a good secondary without a good D-line. When they're putting that pressure, they're putting that clock in his head, the quarterback knows he can't just be sitting back there patting the ball, giving double, triple moves. You know, you can know when he's running a comeback, you can believe he doesn't he has to throw that ball. You know what I'm saying? So definitely having a good D-line that makes the ball come out on time.
Okay, like we said, the Cowboys and Lawrence still in that negotiation phase. How important is it that the Cowboys lock this cat up?
I think it's very important. I mean, just to have two rushers, you have Robert Quinn on the other side who's going to play the right end, right? And then you have him that's going on the left side. How do you protect that? You can protect one. You can chip. You can figure out ways to slide a protection. But when you have guys on both ends, you know, like how come when I played, it was me and Robert Mathis. It makes it a real tough matchup for that offensive coordinator and that offense to figure out what plays to run because you have two guys coming from the outside putting pressure on your quarterback.
He does apply plenty of pressure, so we will see. 1 to 10, how important is it the Cowboys get him locked up?
I think it's a 10. You know, I think it's going to make their defense what it is. You know, like you said, he makes plays, and you can't get rid of those dudes. You got to lock him up.
Yeah, 48 tackles for loss since entering the league, so he will be a key piece to the Cowboys' winning puzzle. Now we make the move to the Bay, where 49ers GM John Lynch has a hole to fill at that wide receiver position, and despite popular opinion, the OBJ and AB to San Fran reports somewhat inflated. Lynch telling KNBR Radio that the asking price from New York was too high, and when asked at the Combine about Brown, he made mention that he had zero talks with Pittsburgh. Here now, Lynch, earlier Friday.
The fact that we had the number 2 pick made it more difficult because they wanted that badly. They wanted 2 number 1s, and we weren't willing to part with that. That's too valuable of a pick, and even for a player of his magnitude. So we tried to come up with creative, different ways to get it done, and it didn't work out. And so you move on. Antonio, we took a quick look, and then we just said, hey, you know, we're not interested in that for our team, and you know, that's where we are.
All right, let's continue to spin around the league because moves made in the NFC North. The Bears shipping fourth-year running back Jordan Howard to the Eagles for a 2020 sixth-round draft selection. Now, last season for the division champion Bears, Howard racking up 935 yards on 250 carries, good for 7th in the league. And if anyone knows Jordan Howard and those Chicago Bears, it's Stacey Dales, who covers the division as well as Chicago. And it's a strange move from the outside looking in as Howard is shipped off to Philadelphia, but explain why it really makes sense.
Yeah, a lot of Bears fans disappointed. And, you know, each of the last 3 seasons, 1,000 yards in terms of scrimmage yards for Jordan Howard. But, you know, I talked to a Bears source, Cole, this morning.
Okay.
And it makes perfect sense to them. Why? Because for the Chicago Bears, Jordan Howard became really a first and second down runner. And what I mean by that is he ran the ball on third downs 40% of the time. That's almost double the average in the National Football League. So the result of that, Cole, is that the Chicago Bears became very predictable with Jordan Howard on third down. So he wasn't as much of a threat. And they put it to me, my source, as simply as that. And then, of course, from a business standpoint, in the last year of his deal, as productive as he's been, they didn't know if they could re-sign him or get anything in return for him. And, you know, here we go. And I think the writing was on the wall, Cole, when Mike Davis became a Chicago Bear just a few days ago. Had his best season with the Seattle Seahawks. He's been around a little bit, San Francisco, Seattle. And he brings some versatility.
Okay.
Matt Nagy talked about it at the owners' meetings this week. Not only can he run downhill like Jordan Howard and sort of break those tackles up the middle, but he can catch the ball out of the backfield. And if you stack up the two guys, and you know Jordan Howard's been great. He's up there with the Zeke Elliott's and the Todd Gurley's in terms of his production.
Sure.
But this guy, Mike Davis, people within the organization think he's going to play right away because he can catch it out of the backfield. His numbers from a yardage standpoint, catching the football, have been better over the last 2 years, and he has fewer drops than Jordan Howard.
Yeah, well, Davis and Cohen, 935 rushing yards to make up for the Bears in 2018, 11th in the league, 1,938 rushing yards. So we'll see.
And the Eagles are happy.
We'll see. That's right. Eagles
That's right.
Very happy. Now, bigger, faster, stronger. That's Ole Miss wide receiver DK Metcalf in a nutshell. The Mississippi wideout holding his pro day in Oxford today alongside his business partner at wideout, A.J. Brown. Now, Metcalf popping eyes at the Combine with a 4.33 40 and 27 reps on the bench. No 40 or bench on Friday for Metcalf. Nevertheless, let's head to campus for this pro day report presented by Lowe's. James Palmer, he has more in the Magnolia State.
Here at Ole Miss's Pro Day, the NWO was on full display. That's nasty wideouts, they call them. And the two top dogs in that group, DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown, put on a show in a scripted wide receiver workout in front of all 32 NFL teams. And speaking with Brown, he told me Metcalf's injury this past season actually allowed him to play not just in the slot this past year, but play outside as well. And he's met with a number of teams, including last night when he met with the Giants, the Colts, and the Patriots, that they believe he can play all over the field inside and out, and that's something he'd like to do at the next level. With Metcalf, we all knew he blew us away at the combine with his 40, but had one of the slowest times in the shuttle and the 3-cone. He came into this pro day, he told me, determined to beat both those times. He sped up both of those, a goal that he wanted to meet. He told me also he has 2 big visits coming up with the Bills and the Ravens.
Between 8 of them, 9 years of head coaching experience, except it all belongs to Bruce Arians and Adam Gase. Now, our Steve White sat down with Sean Payton and asked him about the trend of hiring offensive-minded head coaches.
They get so pigeonholed to this, because this is cyclical, right? This goes, and ultimately, you would say, if we did a little history, successful head coaches probably come from the East and the West, the North and the South. They probably come of both color, and they probably come on defense and on offense, and they're good leaders. They're great leaders. And so, well, if you say, well, I just want the ones that coach quarterbacks and they're on offense, well, then you're going to end up with a smaller pool, and you probably have less of a chance to be right, because already, you know, of 8 hired, there's going to be 3 that, you know, that survive 3 years. I see a lot of mistakes made in that process. I feel like this long in, and so we're excited to play those teams.
Ooh, so Saints fans and Sean Payton licking their chops down there. Now, as we take a look at the season to come, to start 2019, 12 head coaches, 45 or younger. So, Dwight, why are you not sold on this youth movement right about now?
The thing is with the NFL, and I've learned this, experience counts so much in the game of football. It honestly does. And as a coach, the same thing. You have to draw upon experiences that happened in the past so you know what to call, how to call it. No, you know what, that messed up back in the day. Those things are important when you're coaching a team. So when you have all these young guys, it sounds good. Oh, yeah, young guy, he can be here forever. I love his philosophy. He's energetic and all that other stuff. But there's a lot of other things that matter as being a coach. And that doesn't just mean on the field. It's a lot of off-the-field stuff, in the locker room stuff. How do you manage the team? How do you lead the team? There's so many other factors other than being the guy that can, I guess, relate to the quarterback position in the offense, you know, the most.
Yeah, speaking of young guys, how about we ask a young guy? Joe, what do you think? What's more important when it comes to that head coaching position? Is it that youth or is it that experience?
I definitely can feel what he's saying with the experience. But I think what the GMs are doing and them are doing right now is just trying to get guys that are more aware can relate to the players. Okay. More younger guys like the Sean McVays and definitely offensive-minded guys. So I think that's kind of what they're going for.
Okay, you know, you have a guy who once was considered a young coach, Mike Tomlin. He's a player's coach. What's it like inside the locker room with him?
See, now Coach Tomlin, that's one example of one that I can completely understand. Like a Sean McVay, a younger coach, but he can relate to the players, but at the same time, he's going to give it to you real. And he's a great coach. He's a great leader of men. And I think that Coach Tomlin is, like I said, he's my favorite coach, my best coach that I've ever played for. So, I mean, if they can find a Coach T, I mean, I can see they're looking for that.
Hold up, though. Of course, Sean Payton, you guys, is going to sit there and a little dog on the young guys a little bit. Yeah. He's entering his 13th season. Tomlin's entering his 13th season. Some of these young guys, to your point, I knew you'd go experienced, Dwight, but to your point, Joe, with this innovative energy, in my experience studying the NFL and you players, and I'll go with you even though you played baseball.
Oh, wow. So he's a basketball player.
Yeah.
Wow.
My experience, there's 2 things that really jump off for me, and it's the reputation. So what tree did you come from? Is that sort of a sexy, innovative thing? And then the second part are the sexy pieces for me. Do you have a quarterback? So if you're Sean McVay, do you have a Jared Goff? If you're Matt Nagy, do you have a Mitch Trubisky, who we think is going to be pretty good? And I'll give you an example. I had a conversation a couple years ago in London with Andrew Whitworth, and it was the year he was going to go play for Sean McVay. And I said, why? You spent all this time in Cincinnati. And he said, well, they really wanted me. He's a really good left tackle. But because of Sean McVay and had a quarterback, and they plugged him in, and look at what they've done. And I think Allen Robinson last year told me in the locker room, I wanted to play for somebody like Matt Nagy and with a quarterback with a lot of promise. So there's something about those things recipe-wise that I think helps with these young coaches.
Stacey, real quick before we wrap this up, plenty of defensive experience for Vic Fangio in Denver, but 0 head coaching experience. How's that going to shake out?
That's a great question. It's interesting because he is a gym rat in the film room, and he wants to sit in there and study tape for 8-10 hours. He's a fantastic coach. I mean, you know Dwight. I mean, he is a magnificent mind. The players tell you that. How does he galvanize an entire team when the ebb and the flow is changing?
Yeah.
You know? Because there's going to be highs, Joe, and there's going to be lows. Like, what does Mike Tomlin, do when you guys, because you've had a lot of drama.
No, for sure. We definitely had our share of controversy, but Coach T, he's very, very even keeled. That's what I love about him. He never gets too high, never gets too low. It's always about the program, and he's definitely able to relate. Like for me, my example, when I was a free agent, I had a lot of places I could have went. I really went there, like you said. I knew they had a quarterback, Big Ben, and I knew Coach Tomlin was a great coach that I loved, and I met him through the process of the combine and everything. And he just was a people person I felt like I could relate to.
Yeah, and one thing is for sure with Coach T, he wants volunteers, not hostages, right?
And I'm rooting for Fangio.
Okay.
He's a good one.
Now, 12 head coaches, 45 or younger. Adam Gase, 1 year older today, so happy 41st birthday to the head coach of the New York Jets. And Ole Miss's Pro Day Friday, and I know 40 in Oxford, but at the Combine, Metcalf, the fastest 40 time for a player, 2:25 or more since 03 with a 4.33. Now Friday, Metcalf shaving some time off his 3-cone drill as well as his shuttle run. He also took some time to catch up with our James Palmer.
All right, DK, I know you weren't going to run the 40 here. I think the combine time spoke for itself. But you wanted to improve your 3-cone and your shuttle, and you did that.
Yes, sir. I dropped both of them by 0.2 seconds, so that was a big accomplishment for me today.
Was that something that was on your mind? Because that was one of the knocks going into today.
Yes, sir. A lot of people talk saying that, my cone drills were Tom Brady was faster than me, so I just had to come in here and just, show that I was faster than Tom Brady, I guess.
Well, I'm glad you did it. And they put you through some drills, some press coverage. How do you think the route part of it went? That's probably where you really wanted to showcase what you could do.
Yes, sir. The route part went real good for me. Overall, NWO had a really good day today. JT threw the ball well. Dawson ran some good routes, so that was good.
When you talked to scouts today, after the workout, what did they tell you about today's workout?
They said today went real good for me. They said I finally can run routes. So, I've been running routes, but, just to showcase my talents was real good.
I remember you getting emotional at the Combine. What will draft day be like for you with everything that you've been through? Did you think that's something that really could happen after the injury?
It's always, some doubt there. But, after the doctor said I'll be good, I could play again, you got to just put your faith in God. And, he's been carrying me ever since then, and he's going to continue to carry me.
Well, it should be fun to watch you play in the league.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Well, Bucky Brooks has him going 22nd to those Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson likes the way that sounds. Metcalf, projected first rounder. Now, if he and A.J. Brown go in the first, he'd be the first pair of wide receivers to do so since a pair from the U, Santana Moss and our own Reggie Wayne. So time now, Joe Hayden, for Mission Impossible, or maybe Mission Possible, because Metcalf, he's almost 6'4". He's 228 pounds. He's strong and he's fast, needless to say. But this is your job.
Yes.
So how do you cover a guy like DK Metcalf, as big as all outside?
With these big dudes, man, I feel like I like guys that are bigger with a bigger frame because I feel like I can get my hands on them a little bit quicker. Okay. I can be able to touch them because I feel like I can come out of my breaks a little faster than these big dudes do. So that's the kind of way that I cover them.
And you were also saying that guys that are like this, more times than not, they don't like that coverage. They don't like for you to be all up in their mug?
No. They're really, really strong at the same time, but I'm just meaning quickness off the line, just being able to be like Antonio Brown or Odell Beckham. I feel like those dudes, when you try to reach out to them and you miss, they're gone. But these bigger dudes like him, like Demaryius Thompson, I feel like when you're covering them, that I'm a little quicker, so on the line I can be able to get my hands on them.
And you make mention of OBJ and Antonio Brown. Why is it harder to guard those regular size or normal size guys as opposed to a cat like DK Metcalf?
I just feel like they're just a little quicker. I feel like guys that are my size, that have like the same foot speed, the same coming out of their breaks just like me. Bigger dudes at the end of the day, with Demaryius, those dudes are really, really good at going up, catching it vertically and jumping up and down. But when you run into comebacks and things like that, I feel like coming out of your breaks, I feel like that's where they are a little bit lack.
Yeah, OBJ, AB, one blink, and they're gone. For Metcalf, just 21 games of experience in his short college career. He's poised for quite the Sunday, but will he be that big-time playmaker at wide receiver? Questions to be answered. Sounds like a job for that path to the draft crew. Guys?
Out here with the Path to the Draft crew, we got Bucky, MJD, and Baldy, and we're talking franchise wideouts. So who out of this class could be that guy, Bucky?
Oh, you got a spectacular nickname if you can be a franchise guy. Hollywood Brown. Marquise Hollywood Brown from Oklahoma is a franchise guy. And the reason he's a franchise guy is because he can do everything that you want to see at the wide receiver position. Vertical playmaker, catch and run specialist, terrific running routes, and he has a little flair for the dramatic. He's a big-time playmaker, one that I think is going to be a #1 receiver in the mold of a Deshaun Jackson.
You're right, that nickname is just already built in for him, ready to go. MJD, what do you think?
It's funny, we look at so many guys in Hollywood Brown's cousins, Antonio Brown, who was drafted in the 6th round. So I'm going to go a little bit deeper in your list. I'm going to go to Gary Jennings out of West Virginia, because Gary Jennings is a guy 6'2", 215, but can do everything that you said, can run the deep route, can run all the routes. Here, we see him run a whip route. I mean, that's one of the toughest routes to run, to be able to change your weight and your foot and cut back and do all those different things. Here we're going to see him against Oklahoma go deep and make some big plays. He reminds me of Greg Jennings coming out of Western Michigan.
No relation.
I think no relation, but again, a guy that can make plays and be a playmaker for you.
All right, Baldy, you're up. Who is most likely to be a franchise wide receiver?
You know, I think N'Keal Harry out of Arizona State is a guy that just jumps off the screen. I remember him as a freshman against Texas Tech. Dominant player on the field as a freshman. He played 3 straight years. I think he's been the best wide receiver in the Pac-12 now for a number of seasons. But I think he can do it all. He's got tremendous size. He can play inside where he was a specialist, but he also can go outside. And if I had to give you a comp right now, I'd say Michael Thomas. When he was coming out of Ohio State, similar size, weight, speed, been a dominant player for the Saints.
Well, those are 3 talented wide receivers. Only time will tell if they do end up being a franchise wide receiver. For full draft coverage, Monday through Friday, check out Path to the Draft at 6 p.m. Eastern.
Well, last year's draft, fruitful for Chris Ballard and Indy. Quentin Nelson inside the top 10. That set the tone offensively, and that man you see coming off the edge, Darius Leonard, 36 pick. Well, when he leads the league in tackles, something tells me that your franchise is on the right track. Isn't that right, Stacey?
That's right. Listen, the Indianapolis Colts, I guess you could say, Cole, were the darlings of the NFL last year. They ripped it off. They shocked the world. Dwight Freeney, he was a darling for years. Yeah. In Indy, won Super Bowl 41 with the Colts.
Absolutely.
What are your expectations, Dwight, with this group, what Chris Ballard is doing in terms of free agency? Justin Houston is in and Devin Funchess is in. These guys are trying to build this thing.
Oh, boy. Expectations are going up now. I mean, those guys, last year, what they did, what Frank Reich did, it was amazing to see. No one expected them to be where they were. And I had all the confidence in those guys. I had some, former friends, former teammates on the staff. I was rooting those guys on. And I think it's time to take that next step. And to do so, I think first let's talk defense. I think they need to add another pass rusher. I think that's a big thing when they have a 4-3 defense. You have to have guys off the edge making pressure. They have Justin Houston already that they have in free agency, but you need another one. And that's how it was. When me and Robert Mathis come off the edge, it was hard for them to game plan, both of them. So now let's get another guy in there to put more pressure, right? And they need some more guys to cover, all right? Because that 4-3 defense also needs to have strength in the secondary. So if they can do those 2 things on defense, they'll be golden. And the last thing I would say, offensively, they need a guy for T.Y. so that T.Y. doesn't have to carry the load so much. Get another guy to make some big plays so Frank can be even more creative with that offense so he can put more points up on the board.
T.Y. is pleading, go get me a receiver, Frank, and Chris Ballard. But to your point, defensively a season ago, the Colts had the 11th best defense, total defense in the NFL, the 10th best scoring defense, but they were tied for 19th in sacks. And when I talked to a source this morning, they want 7, 8 defensive linemen to rotate, because if they learned one thing in their loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in that divisional round, they got to rotate those guys up front.
More people to hit the quarterback, the better.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Cole, we pass it over to you.
Thank you very much, gang. Now, projected top 10 pick Rashawn Gary credits the role his mother Jennifer played in his life as a key to his success. Now, to say that they have an unbreakable bond, well, that would be an understatement. No matter the role she needed to play in her son's life, she was always up for the challenge. That includes becoming a high school football announcer. Here now, a sneak peek at the 4th installment of Destination Nashville, Drive to the NFL Draft, presented by the 2019 Lincoln Nautilus.
Rashawn, remember in your football game and the commentator didn't come? So I went into the booth and commentated the game.
Yes! Yes! There you go, Rashawn!
It was Rashawn did it again.
It was bad because, like, every time I made a play, it was, like, so much excitement. But, like, when everybody else did, it was like, okay.
Defense! Let's go, Rashawn! Get him! Get him!
So it was like, go ahead, Rashawn, go ahead. I'm like,
oh, we went and we commentated the game.
Parents was mad.
They was mad because everything was Rashawn. Oh, they're going to try it. Stop him! Oh! There you go, Rashawn!
Have a good feeling a lot of mothers would sound like that on the mic. You can watch the journey unfold at NFL.com/destination Nashville. Dak's not going to like it, and neither is the rest of Cowboys Nation. But there's a growing sensation that the Chiefs are actually America's team.
It's a fun team. It's a fun team to watch.
After the break, how Patrick Mahomes can go from most valuable to even more valuable. Next. Pat always working on something, and was that MVP season, his first in the league as a starter, just a blip on the radar? Well, according to his numbers, no. And the same goes for his head coach, Andy Reid, who chose to sit down with our guy, Steve Weiss, to talk about his quarterback.
It seems like the Chiefs are one of those teams that America really embraced. Like, man, we're really pulling for them. We love what's going on there. Do you get that feeling? I mean, we know the fans in Kansas City love and support the Chiefs like probably no other team in the NFL. But can you kind of sense kind of the national groundswell?
Well, you don't necessarily, because you're in the mix of things. It's after the season that you're kind of aware of the things that were going on during the season, and we appreciate all that. It's a fun team. It's a fun team to watch, even for the head coach to be able to see it. It's we're fun to watch. Patrick's a big part of that, and how he goes about his business. He's got tremendous leadership for such a young guy. So I think the guys followed that and they handled themselves the right way.
Okay, so now let's move on to Pat Mahomes. What are your expectations of him now going into his second year as a full-time starter? And then what has he told you that he would like to do to get better?
Well, listen, he wants to be the best. It's not about the money part, although that's gonna come. It's about being the greatest, and that's what he's driven by. And when he says it, it's not. This isn't an ego-driven thing. He loves the game, and that's the way he goes about his business. He uses the word great. He challenges the guys to be as great as they can be that particular day or that particular play, and that's refreshing. That's the way he goes about it. He backs it up by how he works and how he practices and studies. So the challenge for him will be that these great defensive minds in the National Football League now have had a whole off season to study him. And so what are you going to do with your game now? And so Patrick, with all these challenges that you have off the field, with everybody pulling at you and wanting you to be their next great spokesman and so on, make sure that you take care of the football part. And he's wired right to do that. He just he's a focused guy.
The Kansas City Chiefs were simply electrifying last season. #1 total offense, #1 scoring offense. They were top 10 in a bunch of other things. They get all those tools, Dwight Freeney and Joe Hayden, back offensively. But listen, they cleaned the slate defensively. Spagnuolo's the new defensive coordinator. Justin Houston is gone. Eric Berry's gone. Steven Nelson is gone, and Dee Ford is gone. But Patty Mahomes is there. And in week 2, the Steelers played him, but Joe, you didn't play.
I know.
Tell us about what was it like to miss that game against this quarterback, and then he throws for, what, 6 touchdowns?
6 touchdowns.
Okay.
Yeah. It was tough. It was tough, man. But I think just watching him play, he's a really, really good player. I met him before, too. Super humble guy. And I think he's built the right way. He's wired the right way. I don't think the success is going to go to his head. I think he loves playing the game. He wants to be the best. And that's not going nowhere. And he's surrounded by talent, so he's all got it going on, man. So I'm really, really happy for him. Looking forward to what he got going, and he's gonna be really, really good.
Yeah, but you're a cornerback, and this guy over here rushes the passer. I mean, what's the recipe to defending Patrick Mahomes heading into next season? Because there's all this buzz this offseason. That offense is coming back. What will the defense be? Yeah, but the buzz is the offense, obviously.
I think you're going to have to put pressure on them, and then at the same time, you're going to have to put man-to-man coverage on those outside guys. You're going to have to make those windows small as possible, put pressure on them, and just not let, you can't have people running around free. A lot of zones, he's going to pick that apart. I think man-to-man and putting pressure on them is the way to beat him.
Interesting. Dwight Freeney, you played with Peyton Manning.
Yeah. Yes,
I mentioned earlier you won a Super Bowl.
Yes, I did.
So you know what it's like to have a great offense.
Yeah.
What do you need defensively if you're the Chiefs? What kind of defense do they have to allow that thing to function?
Yeah, and this is the thing. They're going to score a whole bunch of points. And I've been a part of that type of system. The thing is, you got to have pass rushers. You have to have the guys up front to go get that quarterback because the score is going. They have to catch up to what the Chiefs are doing offensively. So they have to get guys now that fits Spags' system. It has to be some type of defensive end. And maybe that's why they got rid of Houston and they got rid of Ford, because they're more outside linebacker guys that don't have their hand on the ground. So they have to find two guys, one, to get after that quarterback. Second of all, they have to stop blitzing. Those guys blitz way too much. And the thing is, when you blitz as a defense, it's feast or famine. All right? Sometimes you get there, but when you don't get there, the offense is going to be scoring a lot of points. So you have to sit back. Sometimes you have to play zone, be comfortable, and you have to win games. That's the only stat that matters, is winning the game in the end.
How taxing, though, guys, defensively is it when your offense scores so fast and you don't get a breather?
I love it. That gives me more opportunity to hit the quarterback. Get me back out in the field, coach. And that's what it is. So the more points they score, the more opportunity I can go out there and do what I do, and for our defense to go out there and perform.
Joe,
for sure. And when they're chasing, too, and when they're chasing, you know the ball's got to come in the air. You know they got to throw. You can't milk the clock and just run it. You know that they're passing, so you're preparing for it and ready for it.
I was shocked watching that Patriots game, guys, in the AFC Championship, right? And the last 2 minutes, Tom Brady gets the ball, and you're like, okay, it's over. And you think the Kansas City Chiefs should have won. Are they the team in the AFC? Nah, man. No. That's why I'm throwing it to you, my friend. Because you're in the AFC with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
What's the mentality of somebody in the AFC when you have the Kansas City Chiefs and what they did last year?
We played him, like we said, and he did his thing against us, and like I said, we were playing zone. So what we realized is, we have to put pressure on him, and we have to have tight coverage on the outside. We got to be pressed, we got to be bumped, and make him throw it in the windows, make him challenge us, you know what I'm saying? So when he's looking in zones, he can kind of see that and just standing back there chilling. You got to make sure you put that pressure on him and have that tight coverage.
Pressure.
Yeah, we'll see what they do in the draft. They start at 29th in the draft. And, guys, they added Alex Okafor and they added Tyrann Mathieu. So those two guys should help in free agency. And when you guys saw the exodus of talent from Seattle last season, it was easy to assume the Seahawks were entering a period of rebuilding. But after the break, that guy right there, OT, Dwayne Brown, he talks to Cole on how much fun it's been proving us, the media, wrong.
A playoff team in 2018 and looking for more of the same in 2019. And who better to chat about the Seahawks with than this man right here, Seahawks left tackle Dwayne Brown. And Dwayne, let's start with some old stuff because you're entering your 12th season in the league, your third with Seattle. But in 2017, you guys bottom half when it comes to rushing offense. But last year, you were tops. What was the biggest difference there?
I think it was a number of things. I think I have to give a lot of credit to Coach Mike Solari. He brought in a different kind of attitude, a different kind of work ethic, really focused in on our technique, really, honed in on those points. And I think it was just a commitment to the guys in the room. Younger players that had another year that they were better, veteran players such as myself, Justin Britt, Sweezy, Fluker that was there. Guys really bought into that system. And bought into not being denied. And I think the running back room as well. We had Chris Carson, who had a breakout year. Mike Davis, Rashard Penny, rookie last year, had a heck of a year himself, as well as Russell Wilson. Obviously still a threat on the ground. I think it was just a total team effort to really make it happen.
Yeah, you provide security for Russell Wilson, and last year you signed a 3-year, $36.5 million extension. What kind of security was that for you?
It was great. It was great. As a veteran player, you're always looking for security. And when a team invests in you and commits to you, it makes you feel pretty good. It makes you, put you at ease mentally, and you can just get to work. And when they did that, it meant a lot to me. And I think I just just tried to show the appreciation and show my commitment to them and to the game by putting my best season that I've had in a while, on film.
Okay, let's keep in stride with Russell Wilson because he was sacked 51 times a season ago. That was tied for third in the league. Is that the biggest issue right now when it comes to that front offensive line, getting things cleaned up a little bit?
Definitely had too many sacks. I think that's something that we really take pride in, and it started with the first couple of games, the Denver game, the Chicago game. We just gave up way too much. And, as great as we were on the ground, I think we definitely got to clean that up. When you got a talent like him, you want to keep him upright. That's the only way he can make plays. So it's definitely something that we'll think about and make a point of emphasis, I'm sure, in our O-line room going forward.
No, you always want to stockpile. You always want to bring as many weapons to the table as possible. You guys picked 21st on April 25th in Nashville, Tennessee at the draft. Who are you eyeing if you put your GM hat on?
It's tough, man. It's tough. I'm not sure. I know who the top 10 guys are going to be. I'm sure we'll probably look at, the defensive side of the ball, maybe up front. Maybe offensive guys up front. I'm not sure who'll be available then. Maybe a receiver. So, I think one of those positions probably will be good for us.
Daniel Jeremiah has Big Ed Oliver coming out of the University of Houston, three-time All-American. So maybe he'll bring a little something to the table for your defensive unit. Dwayne, thanks for the time, man. We appreciate it. And good luck in 2019 for those Seattle Seahawks.
Thank you so much.
And don't let the hype and headlines fool you. The frenzy is over. Bidding the National Football League adieu. Spent his first 8 seasons with Green Bay, his last 2 with Detroit. So in his second chapter of life, TJ Lang, we wish you the best. And now we go on to a man who's already in that second chapter and doing quite well, Ed Reed. We all know he's going into the Professional Football Hall of Fame. That's August 1st, but it's starting to finally sink in. As you see right there, Pro Football Hall of Fame. He's counting the days down. Tip of the cap to Ed Reed right there, one of the best to ever do. And also a tip of the cap to our coworker right here, Shaun O'Hara. You see that? Still beaming from our newest mission. Round of applause. How about that? Portland Joy O'Hara, 6 pounds, 12.1 ounces, 19.5 inches. And Shaun O'Hara, he loves it when they call him Big Papa. Shaun, congratulations to you. Now, as we move along, the first few weeks of free agency, well, they've seen the vast majority of high-profile players put pen to paper, but the market, it's still open, still alive and well. And here come the San Diego Graybeards, huh? Dan Hanses slapping together a team compromised for remaining free agents. Read the article at NFL.com/Graybeards. So a few solid free agents still dotting that landscape out there. So when it comes to signing that you would like to see the most, I'll start with the elder statesman over here because we like to go with experience first. Dwight, what do you think, man?
My man Ziggy Ansah.
Okay.
All right. Former Detroit Lion. He's a guy who comes off the edge. He puts pressure. He had 14 sacks a few years ago. He had 12 sacks when I was there. I think he would be great fit for the Indianapolis Colts. Well, let's go get him. We need more pass rush. Sign my man Ziggy.
You see right there, over 215 tackles, 10 forced fumbles in his career. He will fit nicely with somebody. Which signing are you waiting to see, Joe?
I'm waiting to see Eric Berry. I've been following him since high school. I was the number 3 athlete. He was the number 1 athlete.
Okay.
Then we ended up getting drafted. He went 5. I went 7. So I've been always just looking up to that dude, honestly, and just his work ethic. And even in the Thorpe Award, he was up for the Thorpe Award, and he ended up winning it. So I just know Eric Berry's a baller. I respect his game, and I just can't wait for him to sign. He deserves it.
Maybe we'll hear some rumblings coming from Cleveland. We will see. Joe Hayden, thanks for the time this week, man. Really appreciate it. Good luck in 2019 with those Pittsburgh Steelers.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And Dwight Freeney, always a pleasure. And everyone who tuned in, enjoy the rest of your weekend. For these guys, I'm that guy. We'll see you on Monday.